I posted something on my Instagram story a few days ago now. It wasn't a review, it wasn't a breakdown, in fact it was barely even coherent. Just, this looks like an absolute masterpiece, and it was a reaction to a trailer. Now, it wasn't because I'd seen the film, because I haven't, and not because I have any insider knowledge, because I definitely do not. But it was because the trailer meant something to me, and I meant it because of that trailer. Just 2 minutes of footage was all it took, and that was enough. And I think that's worth talking about, because it doesn't happen very often, and when it does happen, there's usually a very specific reason why. The film is Wildwood. It's the latest project from Laika Studios, the people behind Coraline, Kubo and the Two Strings, Paranorman, The Box Trolls, and others. They've made 5 films in a row and 5 consecutive Oscar nominations, a studio that by any honest measure has not ever made a bad film. And what they make isn't just animation, it's stop motion, or more specifically, and this one matters, it's claymation and puppetry. Hand-built miniature worlds, handcrafted characters, moved and photographed frame by frame at roughly 24 frames per second, which is actually double the global standard for stop motion and matching the global standard for cinema. Think about what that means practically. A single second of footage can require 24 individual physical adjustments. A single scene might take weeks, and a full film can take many, many years. There's this tactile quality to it that no amount of CGI can ever replicate. You can feel the fingerprints in it, not literally but emotionally, and the imperfection of claymation is the point. The slightest tremor of a hand can change the texture on a puppet's face and the way the light falls on a physical set. It communicates a sense of humanity that nothing else can, in a way that perfectly rendered polygons simply can never do. That quality alone, before story, before music, before anything, creates an emotional shorthand with an audience. It says, someone's built this with their hands, someone cared enough to do it the hard way. And the numbers, when you actually sit with them, are incredibly staggering. Professional stop-motion teams typically produce 3 to 5 seconds of finished footage per day, and that's accounting for everything: rigging, lighting adjustments, physical set manipulation, and initial compositing. 3 to 5 seconds per day of finished film. A feature-length film runs roughly 1 hour and 40 minutes, that's 6,000 seconds of footage or more. Calculating at a midpoint rate of 4 seconds per day, producing 6,000 seconds of finished film requires 1,500 shooting days on average. Factor in a standard working year of 250 days, and you're looking at 6 years of production time without delays for a full experienced team working in parallel. That's not one person, that is a full massive team. Now for contrast, a single animator handling all of these tasks solo, including compositing, color grading, rigging, lighting, and the physical performances, would be looking at somewhere between 24 and 35 years of work on one film. That is not a pipeline. That is, at its core, devotion. And not just devotion, but devotion of over a quarter of a person's life. Now, of course, Laika doesn't have only one animator. They have entire departments, but the fundamental nature of the medium doesn't change. It is slow, it is physical, it is unforgiving, it is mentally demanding, and it demands a level of commitment that no other filmmaking process can ever come close to requiring. Now here's where it gets almost absurd. Wildwood entered development in 2011. 2011, let that sink in. That was only a couple of months after the book was published, and it didn't begin principal production until 2021. And the first trailer, the first real public look at this film, dropped in May of 2026. That is 15 years. 15 years of a film existing in some form, in concept art, in design documents, in test puppets, in miniature sets, before the wider world was ever even invited into the knowledge that this film existed. For context, in the time it has taken to bring Wildwood to the screen, we've had almost 5 phases of the MCU completely come and go. 3 different actors have played Batman in theatrical releases, and entire cinematic universes, plural, have been born and collapsed. And Laika was in the basement in Portland, Oregon this whole time, moving things with their hands 1 frame at a time. So when Travis Knight, the director, the CEO of Laika, a man who has poured the better part of his entire professional life into this project, released a statement alongside the trailer, you need to understand why it carries the weight it does. In his own words, published by Laika's official site, Wildwood is the biggest world Laika has ever built, and the most personal. It's a story about the pull of the unknown, the courage it takes to step into it, and who you become along the way. Our movie is a celebration of artistry over algorithms, and of the belief that films made by hand with enormous care can still feel bold, surprising, dangerous, and alive. We designed Wildwood to be seen the way movies first captured our imaginations, discovered in the dark on a big screen, with a room full of fellow dreamers experiencing joy, silence, and wonder together. Artistry over algorithms. Films made by hand with enormous care. Discovered in the dark. These are key words. He's not just describing a film, he's describing an entire philosophy that Laika has. A defiance against the film industry, and it shows in every single frame of this trailer. Which brings me to the actual thing I want to talk about. Because Wildwood isn't out yet, no one outside a handful of festival screenings has seen the full film. And yet the reaction to this trailer has overwhelmingly, across film communities, across social media, across comment sections, has been almost uniformly one of genuine, unguarded emotional response. Not hype, this is not just excitement or this looks cool, it is an emotional response. The kind where people are describing the trailer in the same language they use for films that moved them. Where they are talking about it, not as marketing, but as an experience. And I think that's the question worth asking. How does a trailer do that? How does 2 minutes of footage with no character development, no third act, no resolution land with the weight of something fully formed? The answer, I think, comes down to a specific and deliberate alignment of 3 key things: image, tone, and music. And when all things are pulling the same strings in exactly the same emotional direction, not towards excitement, not towards spectacle, but towards a feeling, the result is something that bypasses your critical brain entirely. It goes straight to the chest. Let me show you what I mean. Because this trailer does something that most animated films, most films in fact full stop, wouldn't have the courage to do. There's a close-up of a puppet's hands, knuckles raw, gripping a pair of handlebars. It's not accidental or incidental. It's a deliberate, held shot of physical pain in a children's fantasy film. There's a puppet child's face bathed in cold blue light with tears visibly running down his cheeks. That is not an afterthought. And then there's the shot I keep coming back to. Bare feet on a ledge. Rain falling, cold, blue, dark. There is no body shown above the ankles, just the feet, the edge, and the rain. Now I'm sure you know what this is trying to portray. And I can't talk about it because I'll get censored on YouTube, but Laika knew exactly what they were composing. See, any adult watching this will understand that image immediately, even if a child might not fully articulate it. It is the visual language of a person who has, you could say, run out of road. And Laika put it in the teaser deliberately, without flinching. That's a choice that says this film is not only about magic and adventure, it's about what drives people into the unknown in the first place. It's about desperation dressed up as wonder. And playing underneath all of it, underneath the entire trailer, is M83's My Tears Are Becoming a Sea. If you know M83, and I'm sure you do, you know the track. For those of you who don't, it's not a song that tries to be epic. It's not trying to be adventurous or triumphant or cool. It's a piece of music that exists in a very specific emotional registry. Fast, melancholic, it's aching, and it's ultimately, underneath all of that, somehow hopeful. It sounds like grief that is finally learning to breathe again, or at least yearns to breathe again. And that is not an accident either. Music in trailers is almost never incidental. But the best trailer music choices aren't just, this sounds good over these images. The best choices are ones where the music is doing the same emotional arc as the story. Where it's not illustrating the film, it's inhabiting it. See, My Tears Are Becoming a Sea as a title itself doesn't tell you Wildwood is exciting, it tells you Wildwood understands something about sadness. About the kind of loss that sends you somewhere no one else can follow. And it tells you that before a single line of dialogue is ever even spoken, before a character is properly introduced, and before you even know what the story is if you haven't read the book. That's what I mean when I say music as emotional shorthand. It's not a sonic garnish, it's the first sentence of the film spoken through music before the film has technically even started. To understand what makes trailers like Wildwood's work, it helps to look at the other kind, the contrast. And the most instructive cases aren't even bad films. They're good films, in fact, but they failed by their own marketing. Blade Runner 2049 is the clearest example, I believe. Denis Villeneuve made one of the most quietly devastating science fiction films of the last 2 decades. A film about memory, identity, loneliness, and what it means to matter. Its trailers made it look like a moody action film, with neon cityscapes, an atmospheric score, and visual spectacle. Not that any of that's bad, but it was marketing a texture without a feeling. And that was the problem. And as a result, it opened to near universal critical acclaim, yet earned less than half its production budget in North America. The trailers gave audiences no emotional reason to go. They communicated what the film looked like not what it costs. All because the marketing couldn't communicate what kind of emotional experience the film was. So most audiences never even found out. And then there's the opposite failure. Trailers that try to manufacture feeling through sheer volume. 3 music tracks in 2.5 minutes, relentless sound design, bass drops standing in for emotional beats, the audiovisual equivalent of someone grabbing you by the collar and shouting to feel something, which is paradoxically the most effective way to guarantee that no one feels a thing. Musically speaking, there's a term for what happens when a piece never moves, when it sits in the same harmonic space without tension or release. This is called stagnation. Entire categories of trailer music are engineered to sound epic while going nowhere emotionally. They create the impression of building without payoff. The excitement evaporates the moment the trailer ends. And a trailer that leaves you feeling nothing doesn't make you want to go see a film, does it? No. It makes you feel like you already have, and that you have no reason to go see it at theaters, do you? On the other end of the spectrum, and these are recent examples, not nostalgia, there are trailers that get this exactly right. And what they share is a refusal to use music as decoration. Project Hail Mary is the most precise case I can point to right now. 3 trailers and 3 very iconic songs. Harry Styles' Sign of the Times, Oasis' Champagne Supernova, and Prince's I Would Die For You. None of them were used the way you'd expect though. See, they weren't played for energy or momentum, but they were arranged, slowed, opened up until each one sounds less like a pop song and more like a feeling you can't quite name. A feeling of loneliness, of wistfulness, all at the same time, and this particular ache of caring about something you might not be able to save. And the effect is cumulative. By the 3rd trailer, before you've seen a single frame of the actual film, you understand already, emotionally, what kind of story this is trying to tell. You know it's going to cost you something to see it, yet you also know it's going to pay you back because it's the kind of film you'll be trying not to cry through in the cinema and failing the whole time. You know all of that because the music told you so. Not what the film is about, but what it feels like. Those are completely different things, and sadly, most trailers only attempt one of them. Arrival did this brilliantly in 2016 with Max Richter's On the Nature of Daylight, both in the film and in the trailer. It's a piece of music so associated with grief and temporal displacement that its mere presence in the trailer told you everything about the film's emotional registry. You didn't need the plot, you needed to know how the movie would feel. The music answered that before a single word of voiceover was even spoken. See, what do these all have in common? None of these trailers were trying to be cool. None of them were trying to be epic. But they were all trying to tell you, honestly, what kind of experience you were going to walk into. They used music the way great films use it, not as layered over the story, but as the story's emotional voice itself. And this is exactly what the Wildwood trailer does. M83 isn't playing over those images, it's completing them. The bare feet on the ledge and my tears are becoming a sea, they're not 2 separate things. They're all part of the same thematic sentence. So why does any of this matter? It matters because trailers are increasingly the only contact most people have with a film before they decide whether to go see it or not. 2 minutes, sometimes less, and in those 2 minutes, a trailer is making a very bold claim. That this is the kind of film that this is. And that this is how it will make you feel. That this is whether it deserves your time and your hard-earned money and your willingness to sit in the dark and be moved. A trailer that gets that wrong, or worse, says nothing at all, can kill a film's momentum before it even starts. Not because audiences are unsophisticated, but because audiences are busy people. And they've been conditioned their entire lives to recognize the difference between something that's trying to sell them something and something that's trying to tell them something. Wildwood's trailer is telling you something. It's telling you that this is a film made by people who believe in the power of making things by hand. It's telling you that this is a film made by people who have spent the last 15 years of their life building a world from scratch, who understand that the most fantastical adventures are really just grief and love and fear and courage all wrapped into one. It's telling you that a puppet can cry, that bare feet on a ledge in the rain means something, that a song about tears becoming a sea is exactly the right opening sentence for a story about a child who walks into the unknown because the world has nothing left for him. And it's telling you all that before the opening title card, before any dialogue, in just 2 minutes. It's a piece of music that sounds like crying and continuing anyway. I said it on my story and I'll say it here again. This looks like an absolute masterpiece. And I hope I'm right. But I think I'm right. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and let me know what you liked about it in the comment section. If you want to see future videos from me, please subscribe to my channel. I've got more coming soon.